I think social media is fundamental in this situation, and certainly it's more developed now and more pervasive in Belarus than when I served there over 10 years ago. It is a weapon of the weak, so to speak, those who are not in power, but who are able to gain and keep the initiative to organize themselves in some extraordinarily creative and inventive ways. And it would be wrong to think of the Belarusian population as, in some sense, backward or Soviet-minded. Absolutely not. This is a modern 21st century European population with a very high-quality IT sector, incidentally, and in respect of communicating among themselves and with the world, they're running rings around the regime. So it's essential to their success so far.
Now, we've seen 100 days so far of protests, skirmishes, arrests. Do you think we're going to see another 100?
There's no sign of this dissipating at all. On the contrary, the demonstrations are just as strong now, and in the last few days have been further ignited in outrage at the death in police custody of an artist who was beaten to death, Roman Bondarenko. Protesters have succeeded, in effect, in uniting almost all of the population against the status quo, against this government and this regime, delegitimized it, in effect. There are factors that may make that a little more difficult in the next few weeks or months. The weather, of course, will get very cold. There's a fierce second wave of COVID as well. But this is a genie that's out of the bottle and just will not go back. And the other side of that coin is that the regime itself has nothing to offer, nothing to appeal to the population with. Its only method of trying to dissipate these protests is the use of force. It has no positive message to tell the people why it should obey the regime. So I see this continuing for a long, long time.
Can you see a viable route for Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, a opposition figure, to get back into Belarus, though? Because at the moment she's having to live in exile.
She is forced out in very brutal circumstances. So I think some of the deeper sort of forces to look at here. Firstly, the potential for a financial crisis in Belarus. So Belarus has foreign debt to repay over the coming year, around $3 billion or so, has a current account deficit as well, which will require more foreign currency, and limited reserves. And if the financial crisis takes hold, then the system essentially freezes. The regime will find great difficulty continuing to pay the people who are enforcing its will on the streets. That's one factor. A second factor is to look at the cohesion within the regime itself. There is evidence that at middle and lower levels, there is unhappiness. There have been some resignations, particularly from the Minister of Foreign Affairs and some other structures as well, saying they don't want to be part of this regime anymore. So far at the very top, we have seen continuing support for Lukashenko. But at some point, there may come a moment where a critical mass of those who are at senior levels of the regime may come to the conclusion that their higher loyalty lies with the people of Belarus rather than this regime. So look for cracks and tensions there. Those, it seems to me, are the two factors that might lead to a fundamental change in favor of the opposition.